All right, guys, we do have an updated look at the first official post-Week 1 college basketball AP Top 25 poll. And I am curious to know, what people think of this, because when I looked at this, I was quite surprised at the lack of movement overall, especially when it comes to the number one team, the overall votes, things like that. So you look at the first three teams, you've got North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Houston. North Carolina has not played well at all their first two games. Now they are 2-0, but I was quite surprised to see Houston only receive 2 first-place votes the way they've started out the season. Their defense has been unbelievable. I think Houston is the best team in college basketball right now. And then Gonzaga at number 2. They play on the aircraft carrier, right? They're down by 11 points. They come back. They beat Michigan State. But it was a game that was a struggle for Gonzaga. So those three teams stay in the top 3. I was a little bit surprised at the 44 first-place votes that UNC did receive after 2 kind of lackluster performances. I understand we don't want to overreact, but again, we're supposed to be judging these teams based off of how they're doing this season. So I probably would have honestly voted Houston first, and then maybe Gonzaga second, North Carolina third. You've got Kentucky sitting at number 4. They're 2-0. Baylor's 2-0. Kansas, I don't think Kansas moved down at all. I don't know why it says they moved down. They're at 6. Duke's at 7. UCLA at 8. All of these teams are 2-0. They're all facing cupcakes. You do have Arkansas moving up in front of Creighton at number 9, and then Creighton to finish it out there. Texas moves up 1 spot to number 11. Indiana at 12. They're currently the best team in the Big Ten. Auburn at 13. Arizona moves up 3 spots. TCU, this is really the main other one. I would have TCU outside of my top 25, and I understand we respect TCU. They're a veteran-laden team. But opening performance against Arkansas Pine Bluff, one of the worst teams in college basketball, they're down 11 at half. They win by 1 point. Then they follow that up with another lackadaisical performance. You've got to punish them a little bit more than 1 spot. I mean, those are horrifically bad performances against really, really bad teams. I mean, I think they were like 33-point favorites over Lamar. That was a game in the second half. Arkansas Pine Bluff, very similar, but they only fall 1 spot. You've got Virginia at 16, really good defensive team, and then San Diego State, kind of a carbon copy of Virginia, good defensive team. They're up to number 17. I know San Diego State faces Ohio State in one of those, early season tournaments coming up in a few weeks. Alabama at number 18, Nate Oates and that fast-paced offense. Illinois sitting at 19. Michigan, another surprising thing here with Michigan, they were trailing against Eastern Michigan, and I know the whole thing with Eastern Michigan getting the 5-star kid, but guys, Eastern Michigan is not a good team. They're expected to be a middle-of-the-pack MAC team. Michigan, throughout that entire game, is trailing. They end up winning. They allow like 83 points, and they move up 2 spots. So I don't know if I understand that. Dayton moves up 3 spots. That's fine. Tennessee is down 11 spots. I thought Tennessee was really overrated to begin with. They lose to Colorado after Colorado loses to Grambling. Basically a home game for Tennessee. It was a neutral site game, but there were a lot of Tennessee fans. It was a Sunday afternoon game with the NFL games going on. Not a lot of people even knew this game happened yesterday, but Colorado did beat Tennessee. The reason Colorado's not ranked is because they lost to Grambling. Texas Tech, they're up from number 25 to number 23. Texas A&M, they were one of the big surprises of the preseason. We're not used to Texas A&M basketball being good, but I'm sure there definitely are some jokes, with Texas A&M fans about, how crazy their football recruiting class was and how just epically bad they've been. And now in basketball, they're actually good. It's like they're a basketball school. It's just funny how that works out. And then you do have UConn. I believe they just entered the rankings as well at number 25. They are 2-0. I do not believe they faced anyone. Michigan State, I would have Michigan State ranked. I understand you can say it's an aircraft carrier game. It's fluky. You've got the wind. You've got lower scores. But I love the aircraft carrier games. I love the idea of it. Just once a year early in the season, maybe even on opening night. We know it's going to be really low scoring because of the wind, the way it affects it outside. It's something unique. So I don't know how much stock you can take into it, but I've thought this was Izzo's year in a wide open Big Ten to have kind of another breakout season for Michigan State and possibly be a top 2 or a top 3 seed. So they would be ranked 26th. They were the first team left out. Purdue is right there as well. They're always a solid team. They've got like the 7'4" kid back. Villanova, they lose to Temple. I don't know why we're ranking Villanova, but a lot of people did. They got 96 votes overall. Miami of Florida, they got that big transfer. They're getting some votes. St. Louis, I love St. Louis basketball this year. Them and Dayton are so good right now. They got 47 votes. Xavier getting 44 votes. Ohio State getting 36 votes. They've got a few different transfers. They lose E.J. Liddell. They lose Malachi Branham. We'll see how well they do with Chris Holtman. Oregon, they lost. They should be getting no votes at this point. Iowa, with Iowa, it's always the same thing. It's really elite offense and it's no defense, and I respect that. I respect that brand of basketball. Memphis gets 20 votes. Virginia Tech with 13. Colorado, even after losing to Grambling because they beat Tennessee, they get 11 votes. Arizona State, I think they almost lost their first game, but they received 9 votes. Toledo gets 8 votes. Rutgers, who's got a really elite defense, at least through the first few games, I believe they're 3-0 right now. 3 cupcakes, but really good defense. They have 8 votes overall. St. Mary's with 7 votes, really good on offense. St. Mary's is always the second best team in that West Coast Conference behind Gonzaga. Florida with 5 votes. UC Irvine gets a shout out. Grambling State for beating Colorado is on there. Seton Hall, and then Penn State gets a shout out from someone. And then I did want to show everyone, this is just another thing to look at kind of in comparison. Probably going to do this every week. Compare the top 25 to the KenPom rankings, and we can see the KenPom rankings. They've got Kentucky at number 1. I disagree with that. I understand Oscar Tshiebwe, phenomenal player, but I think this day and age, you need shooters. You need elite shooters. They actually have Texas at number 2 overall, Gonzaga 3, Houston 4. That's another one, like with Virginia. I guess they love their defense there. Baylor at 6. Personally, Baylor to me is a top 5 team. Tennessee at 7, even after the loss. So that's the model. That's the AI system, not overreacting to the loss. Of course, college polls have to overreact because right now Tennessee is 1-1. You can't have Tennessee as a top 10 team, but in the aggregate, when you combine everything together, their overall rating is still top 10. Indiana cracks the top 10 right now at number 8. Kansas and Duke, not surprising there. UCLA. How about North Carolina all the way down at 12 after the 2 bad performances to start the season? Arizona, Arkansas, and then Alabama up a little bit, up to number 15. 16 is Auburn. 17, San Diego State. 18, Iowa with their good offense. UConn up to 19. Virginia Tech at number 20 right now in KenPom. Texas Tech at 21. Purdue cracks it at 22. Dayton, St. Mary's makes the list. And then rounding out with Creighton. I would be interested to see, just looking at this, they have Virginia, surprisingly enough. So this is interesting. KenPom right now has Virginia as the 8th best offense and the 8th best defense. Now you say that doesn't make any sense. They play low-scoring games, but it's the pace at what they play. They're still efficient on offense. I don't agree with this. I don't think Virginia right now should be a top 10 team, but that is funny that they actually have them that high. Gonzaga right now is the number 1 overall offense in college basketball, according to KenPom. Texas is the number 1 defense. And we can see that they've got North Carolina outside the top 25 in terms of defense as well. That doesn't surprise me considering the points that they allowed in their first 2 games. Texas Tech really elite on defense according to KenPom. Just kind of looking at different rankings there. So guys, overall, a little bit surprised at some of the movement. The overall first place votes for North Carolina. Seems like some people aren't really paying attention at this point, or maybe they don't want to make any changes. It's just the first 2 games. We know what North Carolina did last year and the players that they are bringing back. but I don't know if they should have that high of a first place vote share when you've got a team like Houston who is so good and they've started out, they've got an unbelievable defense, they're blowing out everyone. I would probably go Houston at number 1 overall based on what I've seen. But again, you want to say, oh, don't overreact. These are early rankings. You want to still have the preseason bias and understand that maybe, North Carolina, there's not a high incentive to really blow these teams out considering they're 20-point favorites. There's not a big motivation in that. And then the other thing I would say, I think you need to move TCU further down after their performances, especially against Arkansas Pine Bluff. If you want to keep them ranked, that's fine. But, you can say, well, they won. But, I mean, come on, guys. That's like, this is the equivalent of, I don't know, a team being ranked 12th in college football and almost losing to an FCS team. I mean, I know it's not the same, but they would drop to like 22nd or 23rd. That's just my opinion on the whole situation, but this is an update. Very, very minimal changes. They did not want to change much, but we're getting going with college basketball. We're going to actually start with some of these tournaments, so we will really, really kick it into gear. I don't really love the tournaments. I think it's a lot of games, and it's really hard to grade how good a team is because they could get hot if they win 3 straight games in 3 straight days against a good team. It's kind of tough to judge, but it is good teams against good teams. It is all neutral site crap. So we will see, guys. But that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.